السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Al-Qalam, and we'll go through verses inshallah 37 all the way to verse number 43. 37 to 43. So open your Mus'haf inshallah and recite after me to perfect our recitation inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أم لكم كتاب فيه تدرسون إن لكم فيه لما تخيرون أم لكم أيمان علينا بالغة إلى يوم القيامة إن لكم لما تحكمون سلهم أيهم بذلك زعيم أم لهم شركاء فليأتوا بشركائهم إن كانوا صادقين يوم يكشف عن ساق ويدعون إلى السجود فلا يستطيعون خاشعة أبصارهم ترهقهم ذلة وقد كانوا يدعون إلى السجود وهم سالمون أم لكم كتاب فيه تنوين after إدفاء that's إخفاء تدرسون make sure that the راء has a ضمة تدرسون and the dal with the سكون is قلقلة تدرسون إن لكم نون الشدة take two counts فيه إن لكم فيه لما تخيرون أم لكم أيمان علينا بالغة إلى يوم القيامة no غنة no tone nothing because it's all إظهار إن لكم نون الشدة take two counts لما تحكمون سلهم أيهم ميم with سكون after باء إخفاء أيهم بذلك زعيم أم لهم شركاء فليأتوا بشركائهم 45 counts إن كانوا صادقين إخفاء إن كانوا يوم يكشف عن إخفاء عن ساق إدغام ساق ويدعون دال السكون قلقلة ويدعون إلى السجود فلا يستطيعون خاشعة أبصارهم دباء وقلقلة أبصارهم and then the ra is heavy ترها the ha is light ترهقهم ذلة or if you continue ذلة وقد قلقلة وقد كانوا يدعون إلى السجود وهم سالمون. Translation of the ayat. Or do you have a scripture in which you learn that indeed for you is whatever you choose? Or do you have oaths binding upon us, extending until the day of resurrection, that indeed for you is whatever you judge? Ask them which of them for that claim is responsible. Or do they have partners? Then let them bring their partners if they should be truthful. The day the shin will be uncovered and they are invited to prostration, but they will not be able. Their eyes humbled, humiliation will cover them, and they used to be invited to prostration while they were sound. So these verses, it's a continuation of what's mentioned before. After mentioning the rewards for the muttaqeen, and then أَفَنَجْعَلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ, do we make the Muslims like the criminals? When the disbelievers suggested that or claimed that they will be of a better state than the believers in the Day of Judgment. So مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ, what kind of judgment is this? Then the verse is أَمْ لَكُمْ كِتَابٌ فِيهِ تَدْرُسُونَ, or do you have a book that you're studying in this book and you're reading in this book that the disobedient to Allah, the sinful ones, will be better than the obedient ones in the Day of Judgment? So you don't have even reason, you don't have a book that you refer to, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or something that would state that they are from the people of Jannah. إِنَّ لَكُمْ فِيهِ لَمَا تَخَيَّرُونَ, that this book will have for you in it لَمَا تَخَيَّرُونَ, what you choose from al-khiyara, when you choose something, that you would have in that book what you choose from your own desires and your own suggestions and things like this, which is basically everything is for you and the like of that. أَمْ لَكُمْ أَيْمَانٌ, or you have أَيْمَانٌ عَلَيْنَا, you have covenant, you have covenants that is upon us, that you have عهود ومواثيق, heavy covenants between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بالغة إلى يوم القيامة, that will be extended till the Day of Judgment, that it won't change whatsoever, that it would happen to you exactly what you said in the Day of Judgment. These covenants with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَمْ لَكُمْ أَيْمَانٌ عَلَيْنَا بَالِغَةٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ, it's going to reach till the Day of Judgment. إِنَّ لَكُمْ لَمَا تَحْكُمُونَ, that you would have whatever you decide or whatever you rule. And of course this is not there. There's no covenants between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that your hukm and your ruling will be established in the Day of Judgment. سَلْهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ بِذَلِكَ زَعِيمٌ, ask them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who بذلك, of what you're saying, is za'im, or basically kafil or damin, who guarantee for you what you're saying? All of these things that they claim to have, where do they get that from? There's nothing whatsoever. It's all their own statements, words that has no basis to it, whether it's from reason or a previous book or covenant between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, none of that. Or أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاء فَلْيَأْتُوا بِشُرَكَائِهِمْ إِنْ كَانُوا صَادِقِينَ, or they have partners, from these idols that they worship besides Allah. فَلْيَأْتُوا بِشُرَكَائِهِمْ إِنْ كَانُوا صَادِقِينَ, then let them bring these shuraka, these partners, these witnesses, to witness for them what they're claiming, if they are truthful. And the shuraka here refers to the meaning of those who witness for you. So do you have anyone that would witness for you for what statements that you mentioned? Which shows again the importance of, matters of unseen are to be known by the wahy from Allah, the revelation from Allah. And reason is one thing, yes, but the most important thing is the revelation from Allah. So for example, when the Christians, they claim all kinds of things, it's not just that it's against reason that they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is 3 and 3 in 1, 1 and 3, the Trinity and all of that. But it's also what's even more important than that. Where is that in the revelation? Where is that? Do you have a book that states these types of convictions that you have without any doubt and without any ambiguity whatsoever? There's none. It's all their own beliefs that they made up that has nothing to do with the truth. And the same thing with the deviants, those who deviate from the proper belief, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided the people of Ahlul Sunnah to have the proper principles in heavy matters of belief in the upright position, and that is to believe in what's in the wahy revelation from Allah. So when people believe in things that has no basis to it in the revelation from Allah, right? Where did they come up with this? Do they have a book? Is it, there's nothing of that. So even though the verses are talking about the idol worshippers, but the principles that are mentioned there to refuse or to refute their claims, it also can be used, but in the level of, of a lesser deviation, but the foundation is the same, the seed is the same. So then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, showing their affairs in the day of judgment, يوم يكشف عن ساق ويدعون إلى السجود فلا يستطيعون, which means on the day when a saq or the shin will be uncovered, will be laid bare, and they shall be called to prostrate to Allah, but they would not be able to do so. What does this verse refers to? First of all, it refers to the day of judgment. يوم, the yawm, which is the day of judgment. يوم يكشف عن ساق. Saq is the shin. Yukshaf means to uncover the shin. The shin get to be seen. Does it refer to the shin of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of the attributes of Allah, or is something else? This ayah, and I want you to pay attention to what I say, inshallah, because as we know with the belief in the attributes of Allah, right, and we studied that many times, that the people of Ahl Sunnah, they believe in all of the attributes of Allah, as mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, without denying it, without distorting the meaning of it, right? But the how, Allah knows best how they are. But we believe in them, and we submit ourselves with belief to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't also assume any similarities between the attributes of Allah and the human beings, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, nothing is the like of Allah, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, and He's the all-hearer, the all-seer. But a verse like this, when you see in the books of the Tafseer that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they had differences of opinions of the meaning of the saq, or the meaning of the shin. Their differences of opinions in the explanation of this verse does not deny the fact that they believe in the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to the shin, because it's mentioned in a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that kind of explained this verse, where in the hadith, and it's a long hadith of the Day of Judgment, but in it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يكشف عن ساقه, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would uncover his shin subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will prostrate to Allah, and nothing is the like of Allah. But this ayah, it doesn't directly, in the ayah, in the verse, does not directly states that this is the shin of Allah. It says يوم يكشف عن ساق, in the day that the saq or the shin will be laid bare or be uncovered. And the Arabs, they use that statement when they talk about war, and when they talk about times of difficulty or intense fear or things like this. So when they say, for example, كشفت الحرب عن ساقها, they say the war or the battlefield uncovered its shin. That means now it becomes very intense and fierce fighting and so on, right? So they use that terminology, or this way of articulating the meaning here in a way that shows the meaning of intense feeling and so on. So that's why some of the Sahaba, like Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he explained it like this, right? And that does not deny the fact, when it comes to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that there's an attribute which is the shin. So I hope this is clear here. But of course, the two opinions are there when it comes to the verse, and the correct opinion, inshallah ta'ala, that it refers to the saq of Allah, the shin of Allah. But there's no harm if someone explain it in a different way, but with the fact that they approve or they confirm the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the attributes of Allah, and one of which is the shin and the hands and so on. So يوم يكشف عن ساق, so this is a matter or aspect of aqidah here. So on the day of judgment, when the saq will be uncovered, whether it refers to the intense of horrors of the day of judgment, or as the previous meaning, and they will be invited, وَيُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ, they will be invited to a sujood, to prostrate, فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ, they won't be able to make sujood. They will be called to make sujood. So, as Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, he says that when it's the day of Al-Qiyamah, and all of the different horrors of the Day of Judgment is there, that nobody can even comprehend the intensity of it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to judge between the people. And He subhanahu wa ta'ala would uncover His majesty and his shin. There's nothing is the like of it. And the believers would see, and also it's mentioned that Tafseer, they would see light. And then they will be called to make sujood to Allah. In that state, they will be called to make sujood to Allah. The believers will make sujood, of course, because they used to make sujood in this world willingly, and they chose to make sujood to Allah. But then the munafiqun, the hypocrites, and the fujjar, and the evil ones, and the disbelievers, they will try to make sujood, but they won't be able to make sujood, and they would fall on their backs like the cows. The cows are not able to bend. So the same thing, they would fall on their backs without being able to make sujood. So this is a severe punishment for them. The believers will make sujood. وَيُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ. They won't be able to. خَاشِعَةً أَبْصَارُهُمْ تَرْهَقُهُمْ ذِلَّةٌ. خَاشِعَةً أَبْصَارُهُم, their eyes are in a state of humiliation. They're humbled in khushu', right? Of course, when they're facing what they're facing in the day of judgment, because of their criminal actions and their arrogance. So they will be punished, such a severe punishment. خَاشِعَةً أَبْصَارُهُمْ تَرْهَقُهُمْ ذِلَّةٌ. That means the dhillah or the humiliation is covering them, is showering, they're covered with humiliation. And then وَقَدْ كَانُوا يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ وَهُمْ سَالِمُونَ, in which they used to be invited to sujood in this dunya while they were safe. They were invited to make sujood to Allah. They were invited to humble themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with prostration in this world, but they refused. So as a punishment for them is that then in the day of judgment, when the shin of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exposed and everybody would fall in prostration to Allah, they won't be able to make sujood, and that's a sign that they're among the people of the hellfire. Also, one of the great benefits here, right, that we need to pay attention to, like how also the Salaf, early generations of Islam, understood these meanings in these verses. Ibrahim al-Taymi, he said, in the verse, وَقَدْ كَانُوا يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ وَهُمْ سَالِمُونَ, they used to be invited to sujood while they were safe, meaning in this world. They used to be invited with the adhan and the iqamah, but they would refuse to make sujood. They would hear hayya ala al-falah and they don't respond to it, right? And as Ka'b al-Ahbar, he said, Wallahi, this ayah was revealed for no one but those who do not pray in jama'ah, those who miss the jama'ah. Why? Because it says وَقَدْ كَانُوا يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ. They used to be invited. What is the invitation here? It's hayya ala al-salah, hayya ala al-falah. So they don't come to the masjid, they don't pray jama'ah. So they were invited to the sujood and they refused, which is one of the things, or one of the evidences that shows that Salatul Jama'ah is an obligation among men, is this verse. Because it will be said in the Day of Judgment that they used to be invited to sujood and they refused. So, and as it was said to, and they used to respond to the call of Hayya al-Salah, Hayya al-Falah, even if they have to crawl to it. Right? So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us steadfastness upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as you see here, the ayat talks about this and talks about the importance of humbling oneself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we look at the words of the ayat, excuse me here. So the ayat, as we heard it in Surah Al-Qalam, when we start with verse number 37, go back again to the verse number 37. أَمْ لَكُمْ كِتَابٌ فِيهِ تَدْرُسُونَ, or do you have a book in it, تَدْرُسُونَ, from darasa. Darasa is basically studying, reading, but it comes from when something is still, the traces of it is still present. Right? When you say darasa الشيء, that means وَدَرَسُوا مَا فِيهِ, as it's mentioned in the Quran. So it's when something is left with a trace, which basically is when you study something, the author or the traces of it stays with the person. Right? أَمْ لَكُمْ كِتَابٌ فِيهِ تَدْرُسُونَ إِنَّ لَكُمْ فِيهِ, indeed you have in it, إِنَّ لَكُمْ فِيهِ لَمَا تَخَيَّرُونَ, that you would have in it لما what you تخيرون from the خيرة or the خير or to choose. So this comes from خاء يأرى. And al-khayr is the good. And al-khiyara also refers to the choice that a person makes. And then again, or lakum. Aymanun alayna. Al-ayman is the plural of yameen, and comes from mim noon. And yameen is the oath. And it comes also to the right hand. And this is what they used to use for taking an oath. So ayman refers to the oath. Alayna, from us. From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, balighatun, that would reach you, from ba, lam, ghaim, kalbalag, tabligh, and so on, that would make you reach. Balighatun ila yawm al-qiyamah, till yawm al-qiyamah. Inna lakum lama tahkumun, that indeed for you what you decide, that you will be the hukm, from ha, kaf, mim, that you would have that ability or you have that judgment. Salhum, which means is'alhum, ask them. But it's instead of is'alhum, it becomes that in an easy way to say it, say salhum, ask them. Salhum, and the ha-mim, the plural, the third person. Salhum ayyuhum, which of them, ayyuhum, bidhalika, for that. Salhum ayyuhum bidhalika za'im. Za'im, responsible, from zain, ayn, mim. And za'm is to claim something. And a za'im is the one that guarantee something. أنا زعيم بيت في ربط الجنة لمن ترك الجدال وهو محق. As the Prophet ﷺ said, I guarantee a house in the outskirts of Jannah for those who leave al-jidal, or they leave arguments, even if they are truthful. أم لهم شركاء, and shuraka is partners, from Shin, Ra, Kaf. فليأتوا, then let them bring. فليأتوا بشركائهم, with their partners, in كانوا صادقين, if they are truthful, from Sad, Dal, Qaf. Then يوم, which is the day, يوم يدعون from I'm sorry, يوم يكشف, which from كشف, and كشف is to uncover something. And وَإِنْ يَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا هُوَ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touch you with harm, no one would unravel that for you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Who's the one that responds to the muttar, to the one in necessity when he makes dua, and he uncover the su', uncover or reveals or remove the harm. So يوم يكشف عن ساق, and the saq is the shin, as we said, and we explained the meaning of the whole terminology or the sentence with the differences of opinions, and without denying the attribute of Allah. ويدعون, وقد كانوا يدعون, they used to be called, يدعون from دال عين واو, دعوة, إلى السجود, to prostration, إلى السجود وهم سالمون, إلى السجود from سجد, وهم سالمون, while they were safe. فلا يستطيعون, they won't be able to. خاشعة أبصارهم ترهقهم ذلة. خاشعة أبصارهم, so they were not able to, from طاء واو عين. خاشعة, الخشوع is humbleness, is devotion. But here خاشعة أبصارهم, their eyes are in khushu'. Usually the khushu' is in the heart, but when it shows on the eyes, it shows the level of terror that they're upon. خاشعة أبصارهم, and أبصارهم is from the basar. ترهقهم ذلة. ترهقهم, الرهق, which is the root of it, is when something is tiring and it's covering the person. When something covers the person with tiring, and when a person says أنا مرهق, you can say that. When someone tells you what's wrong with you, say أنا مرهق. مرهق, that means I'm extremely tired, right? So ترهقهم, that means covers them. ترهقهم ذلة. And dhilla is the humiliation, and the dhilla comes when someone is being humiliated, different than when someone is humbled. So tarhaqhum dhilla, and the dhilla la takunu illa lillah. Only the dhilla is to Allah. A person should only humble himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقَدْ كَانُوا يُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ وَهُمْ سَالِمُونَ, and they used to be invited for the sujood while they are in state of silm, or state of peace, when they were in peace, when they were safe, and so on. As we see the benefits of the verses are great benefits in matters of Aqidah, benefits in how the Quran refutes the arguments of the disbelievers, and with reason, with previous books' revelation, with covenants between the person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when people claim things, right? And that's why, for example, you see the people of Al-Sunnah, they don't claim for anyone that he is going to be from the people of Jannah or the people of the Hellfire, except what the Wahy came and stated that, Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we say Abu Bakr fil Jannah, Umar fil Jannah, Uthman fil Jannah, like this. But other than that, other than what the Quran and the Sunnah stated, we say we hope what is best for them. Why? Based on these clear verses that we don't have a covenant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to distribute this, people of Jannah and things like this. And then also we benefit of what's mentioned about the Day of Judgment and the belief in the Day of Judgment and how the horrors of the Day of Judgment, what some of the things will be there. And evidence of the obligation of Salatul Jama'ah, the obligation of the Jama'ah prayer, and how the hypocrites and the disbelievers, because they choose not to make sujood in this life, they won't be able to make it when the believers would. And that's the sign of what comes afterwards of the punishment of Allah or the rewards from Allah. And it shows the importance of being in peace to be able to establish the salah. When people are in fear, they don't do the acts of worship in the proper way. They cannot go even to the masjid, right? So that's why one of the excuses of missing Salatul Jama'ah is fear, because the ayah says they used to be invited for the sujood while they were safe. So if someone is afraid of his life, right, or something fearful is there, then it's one of the excuses to miss Salatul Jama'ah. But if someone is safe and he doesn't make Salatul Jama'ah, this is sinful. And also it shows the importance of safety, to ensure safety for people to establish the worship of Allah, and not to be a mean for people to lose their safety and the feel of safety. And people should establish that for the purpose of the deen, not for the purpose of just having a godly life, but for the purpose of establishing the deen, because people do not even listen to da'wah when they're in a state of fear. When people are fearful of something, they run away from it. They're not having time to listen to words of wisdom and things like this. So to have security, it's such an important thing, as it's mentioned in the ayat. So we'll continue inshallah ta'ala with what's left with the surah tomorrow inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.